on the dot. We will call our meeting of the September 21st Police and Fire Commission meeting to order. Second item on the agenda is an approval of minutes, and we've had those minutes provided to us in the pre-read packet. Chief Morales, thank you for taking those at the last meeting. Any thoughts, questions, comments on the draft minutes?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
All right. Any further discussion about approval of the draft minutes from the last meeting? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Fair enough. Just a reminder, I meant to mention at the beginning, we had an amended agenda that was sent out. So if commissioners or anyone else is following along, the amended agenda was on the website. So we'll move through that agenda. Agenda item number 3, public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't see any in the room and none on Zoom, so I think we can pass through that agenda item. Number 4, discussion about adding Pledge of Allegiance to each PFC meeting. This is one I asked to add to the agenda. I was recently at a city meeting with the alders, and I noticed that they do the Pledge of Allegiance I assume it's every meeting before their meetings, and thought that is something that in my time on the Police and Fire Commission we have not done, but might be appropriate, and I think would be appropriate. What I suggested to Sarah, who I brought this up to, and her suggestion in our discussion was to raise it as an agenda item, get feedback now if commissioners are interested, and then offer the opportunity between now and the next meeting for any commissioners or anyone to make contact with Sarah if they have any thoughts or questions or concerns about that prospect of having the Pledge of Allegiance before each of our PFC meetings. So any thoughts or discussion or comments now?
Do we need the comment period, or can we make that change tonight if the board or if the commissioners so agree?
Yeah, it's been noticed, so we could approve it tonight if there's interest.
One question I have is, so I was aware that the Committee of the Whole and the Common Council presented the Pledge of Allegiance, but I'm not aware of any other committee or commission. So I'm just curious, would we be the first? Are we setting a precedent here if we decided to incorporate the pledge into our agenda?
I'm not aware. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that myself.
So I guess I'm thinking about it from the perspective of elected officials. I mean, those are the mayor and the Common Council are elected officials.
I'm on the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee.
And at that committee and those committee meetings, Amy, do you recall?
But I did.
Oh, I think you were breaking up a little bit there, Amy. Could you say that again?
I'm sorry, I'm on the road, you guys. I'm not driving, but I commented at the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee means we don't say the Pledge of Allegiance. It's nothing that's ever been brought to our attention. I don't.
Nope, we lost you again a little bit, Amy, but I think I caught that you do not do the Pledge of Allegiance at the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee, but it's not brought up as far as you're aware.
No, we don't. But
Amy, you're cutting in and out a little bit, so maybe maybe we'll wait until you've got better reception and then get your thoughts. Chief Pulvermacher?
Between Chief Morales and I, we were discussing the fact that in many uniformed services, there is the Pledge of Allegiance at many of our meetings. I know that Chief Morales was talking about the police chiefs and the fire chiefs. We both conduct Pledge of Allegiance at our respective meetings. It's just something to consider, and typically with uniformed services, we see something of that nature.
every meeting I've been to all over the country.
Amy, do you want to, oh, sorry, Sheena, why don't you, yeah, Sheena, go ahead.
Was that Chief Morales that just said something about around the country?
Yes, ma'am. The meetings that I've been to, law enforcement related, it's consistent all over the country. Some of the FBI, National Academy meetings I've been to start off with either the national anthem or Pledge of Allegiance, and Milwaukee County, every law enforcement meeting that we had that was a part of if we ran quorum, it would, ran under those rules, we do either a Pledge of Allegiance or in a bigger conference, it'd be the national anthem.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea too, as long as there's no conflict of interest or anything of the sort. I'm for it.
So based on everything I've heard, I'm willing to make a motion that we adopt the suggested reading of the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of our meetings.
I'll second.
Okay. So we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So I'll just note, you know, I think Brian raised a good question about more data that we could potentially collect. You know, my original intent had been to kind of leave it open for discussion and then leave an opportunity for, you know, other comment. It's been properly noticed and it's on the agenda. I guess I'd be inclined to table this until next meeting where we can take into some of those considerations and any others that might come up. Those are my individual thoughts.
So do we vote?
Any other discussion? All right. Then all those in favor of the motion to add the Pledge of Allegiance to each PFC meeting, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So that motion passes. Agenda item number 5, PFC workshop reminder. This is another reminder. We had one on our last meeting agenda that the League of Municipalities hosts a Police and Fire Commission workshop I believe it's every year. I know it's been every year the last couple years. This year it's apparently virtual, but the city will cover the cost of your registration for the first time attending. So some of us have attended in person or virtually in the past. City has covered that. They'll do the same for any of our current PFC members, and if anyone is interested in attending, probably work through Sarah, I would say. And I think you probably all individually are getting emails perhaps for this as well. But if you're interested, I'd recommend it. I think it's of great value, and I think Sheena, from your past comments, you thought it was of great value as well.
Yeah, it really is. I would highly recommend everybody go to it. And that's somewhere too that we can follow up on the Pledge of Allegiance to see if other commissions, you know, their formalities to answer Brian's question, to follow back if we are setting a precedent or if other municipalities do this.
Sounds good. All right, making our way through the continued agenda. Agenda item number 6, report for the police department.
Currently at 52 with 2 vacancies. We have 3 at the academy, 1 expected to graduate in a couple of weeks. We have 3 in field training that will still be in that process for the next month or so. A total of unfilled positions is 8. We do have 1 person that, on good news, that was expected to retire this month in September and decided to stick around. That's a good piece. Although we have 4 that are eligible to retire coming into the new year. So maybe we can leave a good impression with them and keep them here before they decide to go somewhere else. So far, I feel that I don't see anybody, at least for the next few months, leaving anytime soon. As far as order-ins, we had 31 order-ins for the month of August. The average length of time was 3.3 hours. The number of order-ins were for unfilled positions. That was for 3.8, roughly. Patrol staff availability was 78%, with 22% unavailable. The significant event were vacations coming up at the end of the summer. We're a little bit over from last year in 2021, from 31 to 46. The hours were a little bit more. It went from 2.8 hours to 3.3 hours. However, for the unfilled patrol positions, that was 6.5 last year versus this year. Somewhat consistent with last year as far as patrol staff availability. Both years were challenges with filling in the vacancies. I will say that this year was more towards getting some of the assignments that we needed to with the neighborhood resource officer and the acting detective out in their positions, and we managed to work through that for the summer. So that's a positive.
Chief, one thought.
Yes.
Report, last August, in August of '21, there was apparently in-service. Is that an annual thing, or what does in-service look like within the department? And is that something that every year happens on the same cadence, or does it change?
No, we're going to be looking at changing that for next year. I took it for granted that we do training in the winter, fall, and spring. And because the summer is busy, we normally, where I came from, normally the summer you don't do any training because you're hurting to fill positions as it is with vacations. That was not the case here, which coming into next year, we'll prepare better for the summer to try to limit our training during the busy months and have our training during the spring, fall, and winter. This is a learning curve for me on that one.
And then another question, if I could, and certainly others, I don't think the chief will be offended if we break in for specific questions. You mentioned the retirement that is not going to make their planned retirement. Generally, can you share any feedback you got about why they're interested in remaining on the force despite the opportunity to retire?
We have some people in the audience. Lisa, I think you might have a better answer to that. Maybe not. But I do know that this person is outgoing with the department. I don't know. I can't say specifically. Maybe you could.
He didn't give me specifics either. However, in generalities, when you retire, there's a lot of planning, and he just wasn't quite ready yet with setting up appointments, medical appointments, and kind of that, end of your career kind of items that he was still kind of wrapping up before he planned on retiring. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
We can move on to the recruitment update if that's okay with you.
Please.
We had roughly 20, where's my number? 22 applicants apply. We do have an open application process, so we're still accepting applications for the position. Through the first phase, we did come up with 9 interviews to make it to the command staff level. 2 of those are potential laterals. So we'll see what happens with the interviews, and we're hoping that the process for the interviews will come up within the next 3 weeks.
Did you say 22 applicants?
Yes, 22 applicants for the open, we're accepting applications as they come in. Well, we had roughly around 22 applications, so we decided to start an interview process, and making it to the next phase will be approximately 9 individuals.
All right, Thank you.
Yes.
All right, any other components of the update for subsections A or B, or any questions from commissioners about the staffing report? Okay. Then agenda item C is closed session. So does anyone want to take us into closed session?
Pursuant to section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes, I move that the commission conduct the next item under closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. More specifically, to notice the commission on the voluntary demotion of a lieutenant and to discuss hiring recommendations for lieutenant from the current eligibility list.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right, second by Sean. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of moving into closed session, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we are in closed session. And just for the record, we are moving out of closed session from section 6C of the agenda, back into open session, section 6D of the agenda. Action to be taken on items discussed in closed session. Any motions or actions?
I move that we accept the chief's recommendation to promote Sergeant McCarthy to the position of lieutenant.
I'll second that motion.
Can we back up? We gotta, let's just back up and acknowledge the voluntary, demotion. We should acknowledge that first before we move into the filling that position. So I'll acknowledge the voluntary demotion of Lieutenant Hartwig. Or I'm sorry, Heitman, Lieutenant Heitman, not Hartwig, sorry. Stick around, Lieutenant Hartwig. And then I think it's fair to move into the recommendation.
Is it appropriate to make that a friendly amendment to the motion? Can we do it with one?
We can.
Okay.
Yep. And I think as part of the discussion, extreme gratitude to Lieutenant Heitman for everything she's done for the department and our country and her service previous to being in the department. Really appreciate it. Excited for future opportunities and appreciate all the work that she's done in the current role. So a motion is to approve Chief Morales' recommendation that Sergeant McCarthy be promoted into the lieutenant position. A second by Commissioner Baxter. Any other discussion? For the record, we had eligibility list open for the lieutenant position with the police department. It was open for a 6-month period that took us, I think, until February of 2023. And Sergeant McCarthy was on the list, the only other on the list, which is the authority for the commission to move forward with this. Any other discussion? And all those in favor of the chief's recommendation to promote Sergeant McCarthy to lieutenant, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Congratulations, Sergeant McCarthy.
I'll just say I'm very excited and honored for the position. Again, I love my city, my department, the people that I work with, so this is a great honor for me.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yep, and thanks for your service so far, and looking forward to working with you. All right, we have on agenda item 6E, of authorization to start a sergeant recruitment process.
Yes, there will be vacant, at least one vacancy in the sergeant promotion process for this, the remaining of 2022. And we expect to increase our staffing for the position of sergeant coming into 2023. Therefore, we're requesting a process for the sergeant promotion process to occur in the 2022 period to fill the vacant position and hopefully have a list available for 2021 if we get the approval to increase our staffing for the position of sergeant.
I will move that we authorize the chief to begin that sergeant recruitment process and understand that we would like to see the list begin and form to start filling the current vacancy, but then be ready to fill future positions out of the same process.
Yes, sir.
I'll second the motion. Any discussions? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Thank you, Chief Morales, for the staffing report and everything else. Appreciate that. One note before, Chief Morales, you have to head out. We just passed September 11th and the anniversary of September 11th when our protective services, fire, and police were so extremely valuable. So thank you both to you individually, to the services, both the police and fire service, for everything you do on behalf of all the citizens of Fitchburg. We extremely, really appreciate it. Again, both the chiefs and the services themselves.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
All right, let's move to agenda item number 7, report from Fire Department. Chief Pulvermacher.
So I have the staffing report in front of you. It was in your packets. We did make some formatting changes based on recommendations received from the Police and Fire Commission. The first page really hasn't changed from a format standpoint other than the numbers associated with last month's responses and calls for service. So consistent with what we've seen, our numbers are slightly up from what we've seen in the past. So we, as a growing community, can expect that those numbers will continue to rise. On the second page, you'll see that the format changed a little bit to be able to identify some of those things that we had talked about in the past, not only where our staffing lies from a career staff perspective, but also a part-time paid on premises staff perspective. It gives you a pretty good idea of where our authorized numbers are and what we have currently. So you can see our head count overall is down about 14. Typically, we are authorized up to 83 employees. Right now, we have 69. And so the rest of that, the formatting, we just made sure that all of those numbers coexisted so that the numbers that you're seeing that represent the different demographic groups actually transcend into the overall numbers that are reported on the other side of that graph. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense, gives you an impression of the types of employees that we hire on a career level and a part-time level. Then we get down into the personnel notes. We have a couple of leave of absences, and that could be because of the fact that they're hired on other departments and they're in their probationary period, and before they provide their letter of resignation, they continue with us just in the event that something happens to the point where they have to exit their career status and still need to be associated with the fire department. That allows them to come back onto staff, and that we're able to process them in independent of a hiring process. Once they make their probation, typically they offer us their letter of resignation, and then we have an additional vacancy. So that's where the leave of absence comes in. We did receive a number of different resignations. We have paid on premises firefighter Doug Clemens, firefighter Andrew Braun, Tanner Hansen, Ryan Kundert, and Brad Way. 3 of those individuals were hired on with other fire departments, and some just could not address the overall requirements associated with training and staffing. Ethan Jennings, he was one of the interns that we just hired. It was hard to compete with the job offer that he received in the information technology realm. As what amounts to a 20-year-old kid making a $90,000 salary, we couldn't compete with that. So he asked for resignation. And it's unfortunate, but I understand that he had a decision to make from a profession standpoint. We have one paid on premises member that was separated from service. He was not participating in training or staffing. We hadn't heard from him in a couple of months. We sent him a certified letter to see if he was still interested in maintaining his membership. Did not respond to that, but signed for the letter. So we sent him a second letter, basically stating that we were out processing him. He also signed for that letter, still hasn't made any contact. If there's one thing that I can say, we can't have firefighters that are not actively participating.
And we don't need to hear it, but you have a process for making sure people are in touch and responsive and contact. That's the process, correct?
Yeah, I had several people reach out to him in advance of even issuing a letter. And without the correspondence, we had to issue a certified letter just to know that he received it. And then in this situation, he didn't respond to the certified letters, so we had to move on. We would rather put somebody in place that is staffing and training appropriately. So, and then we have one career member that is on light duty. He actually just came off of light duty yesterday, but at the time that this report was generated, he was still on light duty. From a recruitment standpoint, we just had 2 of our recruits go through minimum skills. They were signed off. They're on their ride-along period right now, and within about a month, we anticipate that they will be counted as staffing. We're going to request an intern process in not closed session, but we're going to request an intern process to open that back up. Make sure that we fill that vacancy on the intern side, and we'll discuss that in a little bit here. I'm going to talk about the eligibility list in closed session for firefighter. And that is the only eligibility list that we have right now is for firefighter. And then we do have an existing career firefighter vacancy. We're in the process of going through the lieutenant's process right now. To be able to promote, and then with that, we'll identify what our next steps are for filling the firefighter position. We've updated all of our overtime numbers, the year-to-date mandates, along with the current monthly mandates of August, and then once again, giving you some perspective as to the hours that I put in. And you can see that some of those hours, although still pretty high, less than what they were, and I credit that to the fact that we just promoted a deputy chief who has been filling some of those hours that I typically would have filled. So that's the long and short of it. Anybody have any questions on the staffing report?
No.
One technicality, Chief, on the spreadsheet with career staff, part-time staff. Mm-hmm. It would be helpful at a glance to be able to see in the middle of that spreadsheet as the total column, to put the total career staff. You've got the total authorized on the left, and then there's, it seems to me you'd want to show a total actual.
Yeah, so on the left side, you'll see authorized head count right underneath there. That's the 17. That's the, so what you're saying is right next to that regular members or the actual numbers that are,
So all the way, you could just do it by saying in the total column in the middle of there, using that box to show us what the total actual is. I understand 17's authorized, but you only have 16 total
right.
on staff, and same for part-time. You total it up at the bottom, but just like you have done on the authorized, if we could add a total number there, it might be, again, at a glance, easy to see we're one short of authorized on the career staff and 14 on the, or 13, excuse me, on the.
So maybe,
pardon.
yeah, so maybe on that head count, plus or minus?
So I think what you're saying, Sean, is in column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that says total. The second row there that's in beigeish color, you're saying that should be a 16 there.
Right.
And then further down in the row that's beige for part-time staff, there should be a total number of actual there, whatever the number is, it's
Right.
14.
I see
or
what you're
14
saying,
less.
I'll make that change.
And then are all part-time staff firefighters paid on call?
No, some are paid on premises, some are paid on call, and the support team members may not even be certified firefighters. They assist in areas of the fire department, but can't be counted as staffing.
So maybe that's a place to, maybe there's a way to distinguish paid on call, paid on premise from others, but let you kind of think through that.
Yeah,
But this
we'll
is
do.
helpful to have it this way.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on the staffing report? All right, let's move to agenda item 7B, authorization to start a fire science intern recruitment process.
So because of the fact that we do have some fire science service associate degree students in class right now, we would like to actively recruit from the class that's in there. We can open up our application process for 2 weeks, make sure that they submit the applications, and then follow the rest of that to be able to bring them in for interviews and ultimately recommendation to the Police and Fire Commission.
Any thoughts or questions?
I'll move that we authorize the start of that fire science intern recruitment process.
I'll second. Any discussion? The process itself, and Chief, was in the pre-read packet. It's a process that we approved as a Police and Fire Commission some time ago that you put together with staff, which was really helpful. So that process is there, and we'll just be going through those steps.
Yeah, it's going to be consistent with what we've done in the past.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve the authorization for the fire service intern recruitment, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. On to agenda item 7C, I believe, which is a closed session. Does anyone want to take us into closed session?
I can. Pursuant to Section 19.851C of the Wisconsin statutes, the commission will move into closed session for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. More specifically, to notice the commission on paid on premise, paid on call resignations, and leave of absences, and to discuss the current active career firefighter eligibility list.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to move into closed session, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome back. We are out of closed session, which was agenda item 7C. And we are now moving to agenda item 7D of the agenda. Open session, action to be taken on items discussed in closed session. Background context, we have currently a eligibility list for a career firefighter position. I will move to close the current eligibility list for a career firefighter position.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion to close the current eligibility list for a career firefighter, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. That motion passes. I will now move to open a new eligibility list for a career firefighter position at this time.
So that would be a process, right? We'd enter into a new firefighter hiring process.
Correct. Yep, and we've got the hiring and promotion process policy that was in our pre-read packet that outlines what that process would look like.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of a motion to open a new career firefighter recruitment process, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Anything else for agenda item 7D? Okay. Agenda item 8 in the pre-read packet is something that we had thought might be good to do. So we, as a Police and Fire Commission, have rules and regulations that guide our process, consistent with statutes in the state of Wisconsin. And 2 years ago, I think it was, we, as a Police and Fire Commission, went through total revision of those rules and regulations. That was the first time that had been done since, I believe, 2008. And we thought it might be a good idea just to review them a little more regularly. So we had proposed putting it on the agenda, and we thought we'd do it section by section. So we'd start with section 1 today. Given the time and the agenda items we've already addressed, I will move to table agenda item number 8 until our next board or commission meeting.
I second.
Any discussion on the motion to table? All right, all those in favor of tabling agenda item number 8, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 9, any announcements?
We do have one announcement. The award ceremony for the Fitchburg Fire Department is going to be October 4th, 10/4, at 6:30, station number 1. It just happens to be an evening where budget presentations are going on at the same time, but this is our typical drill night, and we wanted to take advantage of things that were already on our firefighter schedules so that they could involve their family. So this will be our ceremonial awards and pinning ceremony. So you all are invited. And we have that posted on our Facebook page, so if additional information is needed, feel free to reach out.
Can you repeat the date and time again?
Yeah, October 4th, it's Tuesday at 6:30, so 10/4. That was not intentional.
All right, I mentioned it earlier, but just again, a reemphasis of thank you to the fire service and police service for all that they do, especially as we remembered September 11th not long ago. So, Chief, again, thank you, and thanks to the fire service and to the police service and Chief Morales.
Yeah. Thanks for supporting emergency services. Truly, it's a global effort. It's something that affects our communities in so many ways, and I would like to thank the Police and Fire Commission for being a part of it.
All right, any other announcements? Okay, and then agenda item 13, I believe, maybe not, 10? Motion to adjourn. I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.